Hey, Larken Rose here, and it's Super Tuesday, which means lots of victims of authoritarian abuse go participate in the clown circus to pretend they have some say in what is done to them. When they don't, yay! But that's not actually the topic of my rant today, although it is sort of related. So, in recent years, there's been allegations in both directions, and I couldn't care less whether they're true or not, of Russia's trying to influence this election, China's trying to influence this election, this, that, and the other thing of trying to buy influence, which I'm sure totally happens in every direction, and that's kind of the point. The silliest thing you could possibly think when it comes to political power is that those who gravitate towards political power are going to give a shit what you want. They don't. And they have no reason to. And if you understand even the most basic economics, it's so simple I wouldn't even call it economics. It's just human behavior. It's cause and effect. Why would they care what you want? I mean, I know why you would wish they would. Like, hoping that they're going to use governmental power to do what you want and to serve your interests. Okay, I can understand why you would hope that they would do that. Why the hell would you think that they would do that? What do they owe you? Now, if you hire someone, like if you engage in voluntary trade and you hire someone to mow your lawn or to make you lunch or whatever, they have a reason, an incentive to serve your interests because you're paying them and they're going to want you to pay them again to do the same thing later. So it's not altruism. They're not doing it because they just super duper like you. They're doing it because they need customers. For them to make money, they have to please their customers. So by paying them, you gave them an incentive to do what you wanted. So if you paid someone to mow your lawn, and instead they took the money and bought a really cool TV or something, you could say, wait a minute, what the hell? That's not okay. That's not what we agreed to. You're fired. Okay, do the same with government. They steal your money. They use it on things you don't want. Go fire them. Ready, go. Well, we can vote them out. No, you can't. Well, yeah, because we know you can't. If you disagree, go do it. Go vote somebody out. Show me how you vote somebody out. And it can't just be you vote one person out. Vote out all the people who use your money for things you don't want. Vote them all out. Ready, go. Because you're in charge, right? It's democracy. And they serve you. And lots of mythology that there's no reason to believe. It's utterly ridiculous. I've talked before about how if there's some corporation give millions of dollars to some candidate, and then there's you whining at his office, I want you to vote this way on such and such bill. And then the corporation's like, here's a $5 million, vote this way. Why the hell would they not vote in favor of the person who gave them tons of money? It's like, if you're paying someone to mow your lawn and your neighbor says, hey, mower guy, will you mow my lawn? And he says, are you going to pay me? No, I just want you to. Whose lawn is he going to mow? The one who just wants him to? Or the one who gives him money to do it? He's going to go with the one who gives him money. So do politicians. The moment they have political power, they're going to use that political power to enrich and empower themselves by serving the interests of whoever gives them money. I don't know how anybody could ever imagine that it would ever be anything else. And people can whine and bicker all they want about, you're not doing what the people want. Why the hell would they? You didn't give them anything. Well, I said I'd vote for them. Well, whoop-de-frickin' do. One of the crooks is going to get in either way. They don't care what you want. And that's just as true when it comes to the notion of election interference by foreign powers. Like, why would that change anything about the dynamic? If China wants to buy off, if the ruling class of China wants to buy off the ruling class here, they're going to. And by the way, they did. Which is why in lots of ways they get preferential treatment. And to think otherwise, to just sort of hope that, no, our politicians serve the people, that's just bullshit they throw at you, so you put up with the abuse that they inflict on you year after year after year. There's no reason to expect them to do that. There's no reason to expect them to be loyal to American donors as opposed to Chinese or Russian or anything else. They're not in this for you. It's embarrassing to have to explain that to anybody who's older than 3. People don't gravitate towards and seek out positions of power from which they can rule you because they want to help you. That doesn't make any sense. To try to get power over you, to serve you, that's not how anything works. Believing that is just as stupid as 2 a.m, somebody just broke through our window. Hey, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm here to serve your needs. Really? You broke in, you forced your way in, you're rummaging around my stuff without my consent, but you're here for my own good, for my needs? Yeah. If you wouldn't believe that, why the hell would you believe the equivalent when it comes to political power? They tried to get power over you, but it's only to serve you. What a ridiculous lie. Why does anybody ever think that would ever be the outcome? Republican or Democrat or anything else. It's utterly ridiculous. And to think that they're, for some reason, going to turn down free money because it comes from the other side of an arbitrary line? Oh, well, if, an American is corruptly buying influence with these politicians, the politicians will be fine with it. But if someone from China tries to buy influence, then that same politician who's just a crooked slimeball for sale is for some reason going to resist or refuse? No, it's not how reality works. Why the hell would you expect otherwise? And this ties into one of the many weird, lame excuses for why people insist we have government. One of the big ones is we need a centralized government so it has the resources and the power to protect us from those foreign powers. Why the hell would it do that? Again, I know why you would hope it would. That's okay. You can hope whatever you want. Why would you expect it to? Because they really care about us. Why would you think that? They really care about you so much that they sought out a position from which they can steal your money and control your choices by force. And you think they did that because they care about you and want to defend you against the Russians or the Chinese or whoever else? No. They sought out that position so they could enrich and empower themselves at the expense of your freedom and prosperity. That's how it works. That's just the reality, and it's so patently obvious. I feel sort of stupid having to sit here and explain this, but apparently a lot of Americans still think that the U.S. government gives a shit about the country or the people in it or anything else except their own power and influence. That's all they care about. That's what that job is, giving them power and influence. And to be shocked and surprised if, someone from the Chinese government buys influence, how stupid are you? Why would you think that wouldn't happen? Like you tacitly agreed that this group of parasites has the right to rule you and boss you around and control your choices and steal your money. And so when some other group of parasites, like the parasites in the government of China, parasites in the government of Russia, they go, oh, we might be able to benefit if we pay them off to support this thing instead of that thing, and that way we could make some more money off of this. To think the American politicians wouldn't go for that, why the hell wouldn't they? It's ridiculous. Do you really think they have any loyalty to you or to that arbitrary line around the country? They don't give a shit. They're in it for their own power. But one of the saddest things is when people think the reason we need government for this place is to protect us from scary tyrants over there and scary tyrants over there and scary tyrants. Okay, and what about when those scary tyrants buy off the protector that you were hoping was going to protect you. Because that's really easy. Because you're forced to pay for them either way. They don't ask your permission. They don't need your consent. So if someone from some other nasty ruling class says, here, we'll make a deal, why on earth would you expect the politicians who seek out power over others to suddenly give a crap what you want, or to put your interests above the interests of somebody in the Chinese government or some Chinese business interest? It's like, here's $20 million. Can you do this policy that'll serve me? Why on earth would you think that anybody, given the choice between your whining and somebody else giving them tons of money, is going to choose to do what the whiny person wants instead of what the person giving them tons of money wants? But it's a ridiculous example of how insane it is to want a powerful centralized government to protect you. Why would it do that? All it does is create a ruling mechanism already in place for other governments or other interests or domestic crooked interests, whatever, to buy influence and buy power from the people in power. That's all it does. And, I mean, look at the example of what happened in World War II in France, in the Vichy government, which after 2 seconds were collaborators with the Nazis. Like, literally an invading army. And immediately a bunch of French politicians would go, well, we can either try to resist them and they're going to kill us. Like, let's not do that. Or we can basically become the puppets of the Third Reich and stay in power. Let's do that. And that's what they did. How much good did it do to the people of France to have a central government there to protect them from those scary foreigners? 5 seconds later, that central government was acting as a puppet of the scary foreign invaders and helping to abuse the people. Like, well, that didn't go well. Way to go. Why would it go any other way? And the other alternative, like in that scenario, you have a central authority that has the capability to surrender. And I know there's a million jokes about the French government surrendering at the drop of a hat in every conflict, which is a little bit mean and unfair, but it kind of goes along with the point that if you have this centralized, really rich, powerful thing hoping it's going to protect you, and then they give up or they surrender or they get bought out, okay, now what? Like if China just bought influence, like imagine this purely hypothetical, fictional scenario. It's not at all real, but imagine if you can stretch your imagination enough. Imagine if interests in China and elsewhere, and let's say there's these big companies that, let's say they make a certain medicine. And they think, well, here are these governments. We make a lot of money off the medicines we make. How hard would it be to just buy influence with all these governments to basically make people take our medicine? And so the politicians get a cut. We get tons of money because we're going to basically make them have policies. I know, we could even pay them off. And it could be like a federal level and also state governors. And we'll just pay them off to tell people, you can't leave your houses and you can't do a whole bunch. You can't go anywhere. You can't travel. You can't fly on a plane. You can't do lots of things unless they take our medicine. We'll just buy the influence of government who will coerce their people into taking our medicine. We'll make billions and billions and billions. And it'll only cost us, $1 million there, $1 million here, to buy off the politicians to betray their constituents, because they don't give a shit about their constituents. They never have. And give us the power to do that. Why wouldn't that happen? Again, I understand why you would hope that wouldn't happen, but why would you expect that to not happen? And if it's some Chinese company, hey, we want to get this and we can get this grant. Or it's some government over in, I'm going to make up a purely fictional country called Ukraine. If there was this country called Ukraine, and they said, hey, if we buy influence and pay off this and pay off that, and we can get the U.S. government to just pile tons of money in here to enrich ourselves, and we'll say it's like to defend ourselves against scary whatever, then this purely fictional country of Ukraine could buy influence. It's just a kickback program. You, the ruling class of the U.S., rob the crap out of the people there constantly. You give a big pile to the people of Ukraine, this purely fictional country, and they have the agreement that if you do that, we'll slip a whole bunch of millions of dollars back to the individual politicians who push for that to happen. So the taxpayers pay for all of it, and you get this corrupt scheme. The crooks in Ukraine get really damn rich. The crooks in the U.S. are getting really damn rich. The only ones who lose out are the taxpayers. Why wouldn't that happen? Why would you think that wouldn't happen? The moment someone has political power, why the flying fuck do you think they're going to use that power for what you, the person who doesn't give them anything, wants? Instead of using that power to serve the interests of people who give them piles of money. How do you think the Bidens got so rich? Oh, the Kidens. A purely fictional political family, we'll call them the Kidens. They got lots and lots and lots and lots of money. People aren't entirely sure where it came from, being in politics for years and years and years and years. But I'm sure it's because for some bizarre, unexplainable reason, they altruistically tried really hard to serve the interests of people who weren't giving them anything, but weren't at all, in any way, shape, or form, trying to serve the interests of people giving them lots of money, including people in other countries like Flina. Giving this purely fictional family lots of money to do corrupt things. Why wouldn't that happen? It does. It always has. It always will, as long as there are ruling classes. And there will always be ruling classes, and they will never give a shit about you unless you get rich enough and throw enough money at them to buy their influence. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. To hope it will do anything else is utterly ridiculous. The people who gravitate towards positions of power, they do that because they like power over other people, and they intend to use that power over other people. Nobody struggles and campaigns and pushes to get into a position of power to not use the power. They want to use the power. That's why they did it. That's why they're running for it. And they're not going to not use it if they get that office. They ran for office to get that power and to use that power. And they're going to use that power to enrich themselves. Whether they're named Pelosi or Donald Trump. They're all going to gravitate towards power to use the power to enrich and empower themselves. None of them are going to go out of their way to grab that power to serve you. They don't give a shit about you. They never have. Now, they know they have to put on a show and pretend to care what you want and talk about our great democracy. Like, we believe in our democracy. And by the way, we're trying to do things so the guy running against us isn't on the ballot. Like, yeah, you're super pro-democracy. I already did the video before about how nobody wants democracy. Literally nobody. But all of the politicians have to pretend they believe in that crap while obviously acting directly against that notion, because their goal is not to have the majority get their way, which would be bad enough. The goal of every politician is to win, to have them become the one in power. And if they find out, oh, more people actually want my opponent to win than want me to win, do you really think they're going to want democracy as in their opponent to win? Or are they going to try to do anything and everything to skew it so that they win, even if the majority didn't want them to? Why does any of this need to be explained? So when it comes to foreign influence, it's so, I think a big part of it is that Americans have been so trained into feeling loyalty to a ruling class, which they mistake for patriotism, and they have this muddled thing in their head where they wave the flag of the republic that's robbing and oppressing them, thinking it somehow means freedom because it's all a bunch of muddled mess in their heads. Because they've been tricked into feeling loyalty to the ruling class of this particular piece of dirt, they sort of project that into the politicians. Well, they're going to be loyal to us. No, they won't. They never have been. They never will be. If they can get money from somebody outside of that line or inside, they don't give a crap what you want. They never have and they never will. And to expect otherwise is so childish and ridiculous. I don't care what party you're talking about. I don't care what rhetoric they spew at you to trick you into playing their ridiculous game. They're seeking out power over you, and you're not giving them enough for them to give a crap what you want. I'm going to call my congressman's office. Oh yeah, I'm sure that'll have more sway with him than the guy who just gave him $5 million. Or the guy from China who gave him $10 million. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to choose you over that. Does anybody believe that? And I think, again, the problem is that people just don't think about this. Their wishful thinking, their entire view of politics and political power just rests on the wishful thinking that they've been trained to have, instead of just looking at reality and cause and effect and incentives. Like, even you, let's assume that you're a well-intentioned person. Let's assume you even love America and you love justice and blah, 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 and you're trying to do the right thing and you just got elected into Congress. And there's a bill up for pass some new weird law, and you don't entirely understand it. It's some regulation that people who are producing automobiles have to do such and such. And some representative of, some automobile company goes, ooh, this gives us an advantage. So he goes to you and says, their lobbyists come to you and they say, yeah, we think it's really important. It's good for America and our this industry and our company and America. Here's $1 million, Mr. You, if you'll just vote on this bill in this direction. Now, some other person calls your office and says, well, I don't really like this bill. Okay? I want you to vote against it. Okay? Which are you going to do? Assuming you're a good person who means well. And it's just some regulation that whatever, either some people win, some people lose, or the other people win and the other people lose. And this guy's giving you $1 million to do it, and that guy's just whining at you on the phone. Assuming you're a good person and not someone whose life ambition is to dominate others, which describes everyone in government, even if you were a good person, are you really going to pretend that you wouldn't immediately be corrupted by that? Now, there may be some line that well, I'm not going to pass this bill because I think it's heinously, utterly evil. Okay, doesn't matter. They'll pay you to vote on some other thing that you don't really care that much about, or it's sort of a fine line or whatever. You're going to act in your own interests. And whatever principles or anything else you have, yeah, that might sort of draw a line here and there. Now, for people in Congress, doesn't draw a line anywhere because they're all opportunistic slimeballs. But if you get an actually well-intentioned person, how long do you think it's going to take before somebody says, well, I know you're sort of on the fence with this particular bill because you see the pros and cons either way. And if you're not even sure what you would do and somebody goes, well, I understand that you have this internal debate trying to figure out which you think is better, just letting you know that if you happen to side on this side, you get $1 million from these people. And if you side on this side, few people are going to call your office and whine at you. I wonder which you're going to do. No, I don't. You're going to do the one that gets you $1 million. And the less principled you even imagine yourself to be, the quicker and the easier it is to buy influence with you. And if you're so slimy that you're like the Kaiden family that I just made up, and you don't give a shit about anyone except yourself, and that's the same with my fictional character, Donald Frump. Of course, you're going to do what enriches you, and you don't even give a shit who it hurts. You're going to push, for example, if you're the Kaiden family, you're going to push a crime bill that completely abuses and unfairly mistreats black people in the war on drugs and a bunch of other stuff. And then later you're going to ask them to vote for you while pretending you give a shit about them. When the only thing you give a shit about is the people who give you lots of money and what you have to do to get that money. And it's almost like behind the scenes there would be discussions where maybe your son is just directly telling people, if you want this legislation or this government action that serves your interest, here's the money you have to give to us, and then you'll get that. Like, I can see why people are upset when they learn about that, but why the hell would you be surprised to learn that? That is the driving force behind all political power everywhere through all of time. No, it's about righteousness. And the most glaring, horrendous example I can think of. You know, World War II, nationalism in the U.S. was like the highest it's ever been. And rah, 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 yay, we won World War II. Thank goodness that the great and powerful U.S. Army and military defeated the third worst mass murder in history, and then gave half of Europe to the second worst mass murder in history, while being allies with the second and the first worst mass murders in history, namely Stalin and Mao. And we're going to call Stalin Uncle Joe, because he only murdered, 20 million of his own people? But he has, influence, and we make deals and do stuff. The Soviet Union existed because of the United States government giving Stalin half of Europe. That's why that kept going. And I forget which U.S. general said, okay, now that we've been through this, like the Battle of Stalingrad, a huge number of Germans and Russians died in that, completely dwarfing all U.S. casualties combined from World War II. And he's like, well, we could just wander into Moscow now and kick their ass. There's almost nothing left of their military. No, because the U.S. parasites are now buddies with the Russian parasites, and we're going to do a deal and give them half of Europe. And all Americans are going to think is, well, we defeated Hitler. Okay, because he wasn't quite playing the games that the U.S. parasites wanted played. But Stalin was, and Mao was, so there's the picture of Nixon shaking the hand and smiling, shaking the hand of the worst mass murderer in the history of the world, Mao Zedong. And people are still going to believe that there was something principled about the U.S. being in World War II? No, there wasn't. They knew full well, this tyrant's doing nasty enough stuff, then most Americans will go rah, rah, rah to defeat him because he's psycho, doing psycho things. But it's not because the people in government gave a crap about any of that. They saw it as another opportunity to empower themselves, and it worked. And they gambled. And tyrants on all sides do that. The fact that at the beginning, Russia was on the side of Germany. And then later it's like, oh, never mind, now we're switching sides. Yeah, this is a super principled fight you're in where you just switch sides in the middle. What the hell? And how many times has the U.S. government, we have to go defeat that third world tyrant over there. Oh, yeah, how did he get there? The CIA put him there. Okay, maybe don't do that. Well, screw you. We get money in either way. We put in a tyrant and overthrow that. We get money. We get the people who build the war machines, who give us lots of money to create wars. They get money either way. So when we put him in and overthrow whoever's there now, and then 5 seconds later we go invade and overthrow the guy that we put in, either way, Lockheed's making money. Like, lots of the military manufacturers are making money, and they're slipping some to the politicians who make sure the war continues. And that's all that politics ever is. And I hope more and more people are finally figuring that out. And it seems that they are. And outgrowing this insane notion that there is any reason at all that the politicians would ever give a crap what you want. Unless you're one of the people rich enough to be throwing millions of dollars at them to buy their influence. Because they have no principles. And like even the thing of people saying, oh, this guy's loyal to China. No, he isn't. He's loyal to his own stinking money and power like every other politician in the world. And of course, he's going to sell his soul for money. That's why he ran for politics, to do exactly that. And to pretend that they have loyalty to Russia or to China, no, they have loyalty to themselves. And they're doing whatever gets themselves money and power. That's all it's ever been. That's all it will ever be until people outgrow the superstition of authority and stop believing government is an actual, legitimate, necessary thing. It's so weird to watch people be surprised when it came out that this politician accepted money for... It goes in every direction. Like the stupid circus going on with all the things against Trump, who's just a corrupt crook in his own right, but like the prosecution, and then the prosecutor is having an affair with the DA is having an affair with the prosecutor that she's appointing to prosecute this case, and just that whole circus. And yeah, they funnel money over here and funnel money this way. None of them give a shit about any of it. They're all corrupt crooks. Now, do you think those corrupt crooks who are saying, oh, Donald Trump, he's corrupt, we have to prosecute him because he's corrupt? Yeah, but you totally are absolutely corrupt. So obviously it isn't the corruption that's upsetting you, because you do that too. It's like little cliques in the throng of political parasites that, well, we don't like those crooks, we like these crooks. None of them have a principle between them. I hope people are finally looking at this clown world and finally realizing none of them give a shit about you. They never have, they never will. Nobody gravitates towards positions of power to serve the people who aren't giving them anything. Nobody does that. So, yeah, if you're shocked that the Chinese government would buy influence from U.S. politicians, then you're just a gullible idiot. And the problem isn't that that's happening. Of course that's happening. The problem is that you and lots of other Americans are gullible idiots who actually expect the political parasites in the U.S. to give a crap about them. They don't, they won't, they have no reason to. It's such basic cause and effect and human nature. All you have is whining, and other people are throwing millions of dollars at them. They're going to do what the people throwing millions of dollars at them want them to do. And there was a study by some university recently that shows exactly that. What the people want and what government does doesn't match at all. There's no correlation at all, except when you look at the people giving them lots of money. Then there's a correlation because they're just buying influence. That's how political power works. The idea that it's protecting us as a whole from China, no, it isn't. It's protecting us from those scary drugs. No, it's making the problem worse with the stupid war on drugs. Way, way worse. So I hope Clown World is so ridiculous now that a lot of people watching are going, this isn't, why are we even pretending that we think the government... Like, if in the last few years you didn't figure out that the government was a bunch of absolute sellouts who would lie their asses off to enrich a particular special interest at the expense of your freedom, literally trying to lock you in your house until you hand over money to the interests that paid for them to do that. If you can't figure that out from that, if they can be that obvious and you still think your representative gives a shit what you want, there may sort of be no hope for you. And even the people now, because now people in the mainstream are starting to say, oh, these shutdowns, they cause a lot of problems. And maybe this wasn't necessary. And maybe that wasn't necessary. And we're going to speak out about it now, and we're going to object. If they didn't object while it was happening, they're all lying pieces of shit. Any Republican who now pretends to be outraged by what happened 2020 on is a lying sack of shit if they didn't complain while it was happening. This beautiful vaccine, we have Operation Warp Speed, so quickly making this awesome vaccine. Don't ever pretend that those people give a crap about you. And if they know the lie is falling apart and then suddenly they jump on board, oh, it turns out that these shutdowns, they were dangerous. When I said that on YouTube, they took my video down. I made a video called Shutdowns, Stupid, Evil, and Pointless. Or some order of those three. And they took it down because you weren't allowed to say that. And the vast majority of people in the mainstream now saying, well, there was a cost to these shutdowns that, it turns out it was pretty serious. Yeah, some of us knew that the whole time. And the people who are only saying it now are the biggest lying sacks of shit there are because they knew it when it was happening. And they had no frickin' soul. They were bought and paid for. And they kept quiet when it would have mattered. Now that people are finding out the truth, now they can act so concerned. And, oh, it turns out, shut the fuck up. If that person wasn't saying it when it was happening, they're only saying it now to get their own ass out of hot water. Because they want to pretend they were on the right side. They weren't. You can tell who was on the right side because they got demonized and they got slandered and they got silenced and they got censored because they said the truth when everybody, all the bought-off politicians, left and right, were being just evil pieces of crap. That is the reality of politics. When it matters, if they say the wrong thing, it's because their souls are for sale. And that is true of everybody in politics. Alrighty then. So if you expect government to represent you, you're an idiot. Don't know a nice way to say that. If you want them to, if you hope they would, okay, that's one thing. If you expect them to pass up millions of dollars in favor of doing what you want because you winded them, you're just an idiot and you need to grow up.